Chicago, 1994. Long before anyone recognized the name Meghan Markle, long before Hollywood lights or royal ceremonies, there was a story few knew existed. A story so quiet it nearly vanished without a trace. It began with a young man named Joe Giuliano, a simple, grounded person who believed in loyalty, family, and the ordinary rhythms of life. Meghan and Joe's connection grew swiftly, like a spark catching dry kindling, and for a brief moment it seemed real. But almost as quickly, it dissolved. No photographs remain, no public acknowledgement exists, no record of the marriage survives. For years, those who glimpsed fragments of the truth stayed silent, bound by loyalty, discretion, and the Giuliano family's insistence that this story disappear entirely. Yet even the deepest silence eventually shifts, and now, nearly 3 decades later, whispers are emerging from those once closest to the family, revealing a chapter of Meghan's life that she had carefully hidden. The marriage itself took place in a small, unassuming chapel in Las Vegas. No guests, no photographers, no grand dress, no orchestrated fanfare, just Meghan, Joe, and a minister. It was private, understated, fleeting. 2 young people exchanged vows under dim lighting, promising a future together that few would ever remember. Those who knew Joe later reflected that he believed in the permanence of this union. Meghan, however, seemed already focused elsewhere, her attention drawn to possibilities far beyond the city streets of Chicago. The ceremony concluded quietly, and what followed was even quieter. Within months, the relationship faltered. Papers were filed, records sealed, and the memory of that wedding nearly vanished. But why would a simple, young marriage be erased so completely? Why would discretion outweigh transparency? To understand, we must first consider the environment into which Meghan stepped. The Giuliano family was unremarkable in the sense of fame or wealth, but extraordinary in their traditions, closeness, and steadfast values. Their lives revolved around daily dinners, holiday rituals, and an understanding that personal matters remained within the home. Marriage was sacred, meant to endure. When Meghan entered this world, she arrived like a sudden gust of wind in a room of carefully arranged candles, bright, ambitious, and restless. Her presence initially charmed the family, who welcomed her with warmth and politeness, but soon subtle inconsistencies began to surface. Dates and details shifted depending on who asked. Graduation years did not align. Small contradictions appeared in conversations. None of these discrepancies were dramatic, but they created unease. Joe's parents noticed and quietly questioned what they observed. Meghan, they sensed, was not intending to plant roots in their home. She was already charting her own trajectory. Joe's mother, a quiet and observant woman, noticed the irregularities and attempted gentle inquiries. Yet every attempt was deftly redirected. Auditions, trips, career plans, anything that shifted the focus away from personal matters. Meghan appeared to live in 2 overlapping worlds, the bright, presentable young woman Joe loved, and another persona, methodical and strategic, planning her next steps. The Giulianos came to believe that Meghan wasn't joining their family so much as passing through it. As time progressed, the marriage began to strain under the pressure of diverging ambitions. Joe sought stability, family, and tradition, while Meghan seemed to crave reinvention, fame, and the allure of a life beyond Chicago. The distance grew quietly, evident in empty chairs at dinners, missed calls, and increasing absences from family gatherings. Meghan increasingly spent time in Los Angeles, pursuing opportunities that promised visibility, recognition, and progress toward her goals. The first pivotal shock came with news of a pregnancy. In most households, this would have been a cause for celebration, but for the Giulianos, steeped in tradition and valuing privacy above all, the news sparked concern. The marriage was already fragile, and they feared the child's future. The family believed in raising children with stability, love, and a protected environment, not amidst ambition, cameras, and uncertainty. Sources suggest that rather than confrontation, a quiet decision was made. The Giulianos would assume responsibility for the child. Meghan accepted this, seemingly without argument, as though freeing herself from a path she had never intended to follow. That arrangement marked a turning point. The marriage transformed from partnership to parallel lives, Joe and the family maintaining one course, Meghan pursuing another. By mid-1995, the child was reportedly born. She did not appear in public records as Meghan's offspring. Within the family, she was integrated quietly, presented as a relative or extended family member, shielded from public view and questions. The Giulianos constructed a private wall around her life, one reinforced by tradition, discretion, and an unspoken vow that the child's identity would remain protected. Joe maintained a quiet involvement, but Meghan moved on, stepping into the world that had always beckoned her: college, auditions, and eventually Los Angeles. The Giulianos remained behind, raising the child in privacy, committed to shielding her from public scrutiny. This was not abandonment, it was deliberate protection. Meghan's departure was not just from a marriage, but from responsibility, leaving the family to honor a decision that prioritized the child's security over public acknowledgement. The dissolution of the marriage was handled with speed and discretion. An annulment was filed and sealed. Both sides agreed to maintain silence. Meghan would leave with her reputation intact, unconnected to the Giulianos or the child, while the family safeguarded their privacy and continued raising the child in quiet isolation. There are whispers of financial arrangements, though details remain unclear. What matters is that the record of this early chapter was effectively erased. In the aftermath, the Giuliano household seemed to vanish. Neighbors noted the absence of lights, closed curtains, and a dead phone line. Soon, a moving truck removed their belongings and the family disappeared without explanation, presumably to shield the child from any connection to Meghan. For nearly 3 decades, no public acknowledgement surfaced, and Joe never spoke of the past, even as Meghan became a global figure.
Nearly 30 years later, however, the silence is beginning to shift. Whispers have resurfaced, not from gossip sites or tabloids, but from people who once knew the Giuliano family personally. The story isn't being broadcast, but quietly remembered, and the child who grew up under the Giuliano's protection may now be asking questions. The past, once buried, has begun to stir again. The choices made in Chicago shaped Meghan's future in ways few recognized at the time. She emerged from the shadows of this secret life and stepped onto public stages, first in Los Angeles, then across the globe. Fame, fortune, and eventually royalty followed. Yet beneath the glamour lay a chapter few were aware of: a forgotten marriage, a child raised in secrecy, a family whose entire life had been oriented around protecting someone from exposure. This early period framed the woman she would become. Meghan learned to navigate ambition and opportunity while maintaining a careful public image. She developed the ability to charm, influence, and move through worlds that were far larger and more visible than Chicago. But the echoes of that first union lingered, a reminder of the choices she made and the lives affected by them. The Giulianos, for their part, continued to uphold their code. The child grew up insulated from the spotlight, free from questions about her mother's rising fame. Every holiday, every birthday, every decision in the household was made to preserve normalcy and safety. And yet, even in silence, the presence of a past marriage shaped perceptions, decisions, and ultimately, legacies. Now, with the story emerging in whispers, questions abound. How does one reconcile a life of public prominence with a past so carefully hidden? How much of Meghan's early drive was influenced by the paths she had closed behind her? For the Giuliano family, the past was never meant to resurface, but time has a way of loosening even the most steadfast secrets. The child, now grown, may seek her own understanding of a life spent in the shadows. The family may face renewed attention, and the world may finally glimpse the impact of a young marriage erased from history. Joe Giuliano, once a husband and father in private, remains largely silent, a figure in the background whose choices helped maintain order while the future unfolded. Ultimately, this story is not about scandal or sensationalism. It is about the consequences of choices made in youth, the sacrifices of those who prioritize protection over recognition, and the ripple effects that follow when personal histories collide with public lives. It is a reminder that behind every public figure, there exist hidden chapters, untold sacrifices, and lives shaped quietly in ways the world may never see. For Meghan Markle, the journey from Chicago to the global stage was built on talent, opportunity, and ambition, but also on the paths she left behind. The Giuliano family's silence, the vanished child, the erased marriage, all were decisions made to protect, shield, and preserve. And yet, time has a way of challenging even the most carefully constructed silences. The story may remain partially hidden, but its impact lingers, a quiet shadow alongside the life Meghan has built. For those who lived it, the memories remain, waiting for the right moment to be acknowledged. And as whispers continue to surface, the past reminds us that no story, no matter how deeply buried, can remain entirely in the dark. A forgotten marriage, a vanished family, a child raised in secrecy, all part of a chapter that shaped the woman the world knows today. And perhaps one day, the full truth will step into the light. Until then, the echoes remain, a testament to the power of choices, the weight of silence, and the enduring influence of hidden histories.